Hi, everyone. We're back with episode 7 of reJUVEnation. My name is Monica, and we have our guest here. Would you like to introduce yourself and let us know, how Juve came about in your life and the love story with Juve for you?
Thanks, Monica. I'm Nicholas Di Giovanni, and for me, pretty simple stuff with Juve. I have family in Torino. My grandfather's sisters, they raised their family in Torino. Not that my family's from there, but they're still there. And my grandmother went to go visit them. I think it was about 2002, 2003, and she brought me back. One of those Del Piero shirts, you get on the street, the unofficial shirts. That
Classic.
I don't even think I don't even think the logo on it is real. Like I think it has the shape, but I don't think the Juventus is on it. I have to look at it, and and I didn't know who Juve was. I only knew about the national team at that point. So I would ask questions, like what team is this? Who's this player? And I think not long after, my family like sent me a picture of Del Piero that they took of him at training and stuff. So I made that connection. Oh yeah, that's the player on the shirt. And then 2006, obviously watching Italy and watching Del Piero, what he did in that semifinal against Germany. It was like, hey, it's Del Piero. It's that player on my shirt. I was what, 9 years old at the time. And I mean at that point I knew more about Juve, but it was just at that point I wasn't really able to watch it either, because no one in my family watched soccer. We didn't, it's not like now where you have it on the zone, right? So, at that point, it was cool to actually like see him play, and be old enough to know. So at that point, he became my favorite player, and by extension, UVA became my team, and after that, just followed them. Again, it was difficult for a few years, right? The accessibility here in Canada,
Mhm.
we don't get it, and I started seriously watching maybe 7 years ago now. When I got my laptop, when I finished high school, I got a laptop and I was able to actually stream the games. That's when since the 14-15 season now, been like seriously watching every single game.
Yes, we love a good Del Piero story. I mean, that's most of, I guess, our generation anyway. Me, my brother, you. I feel like we're all in the same kind of age gap, and I'm sure Del Piero has influenced a lot of fandom amongst Juventus fans. So I'm with you there on that. Um, so speaking of the game today, we obviously played Crotone at home today, and we recorded a 3-0 win in our 250th game in all competitions at the Allianz Stadium. Um, and it's safe to say it was, for the most part, a comfortable win. To me, they didn't really look threatening, or I wasn't really fearful at any point in the game. um we'll talk more about the game itself, and analyzing the tactics, and we'll get into more depth of about the game. I just wanted to start with, I always start with a post game match comments. So today Pirlo spoke, as well as Gigi and Ramsey. So we'll start with Pirlo, and we'll start with a comment he made saying, "We made a nervous start, and it certainly wasn't our best start. Our passing was sloppy, partly due to rushing and partly due to our desire to score an early goal." Um, so starting with this comment, it's actually, pretty accurate in my opinion. We did suffer a bit in the first, opening 30, 35 minutes or so. Um, Not even with giving up much, but to try to get things going, string passes together, I think we were struggling. In my opinion, a large reason, or yeah, a large reasoning to our struggles in the beginning was Bentoncourt. And I mean, I can go on and on about this guy. I'm sure a lot of people can, and I try to give him the benefit of the doubt. because of, how bad, I guess, our midfield options are. But like, this was a brutal performance from him. Um, Basically hiding the entire game. Um, his role in that midfield, you expect him, to make himself available and come to the ball, and none of that. Walking really 75% of the game, and just not interested in receiving or touching the ball. Like, the defenders, to me, played more of like a regista role than Bentancur. Like, Delict and Danilo had more touches in the game than Bentancur, and which is not totally unexpected with Pirlo's tactics. He likes to involve the back line, and press high with the back line and get them involved in the play. Especially Danilo is crucial for that. But I mean, this, like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Bentancur? I can't really, say much more than that he was just such a cowardly performance. And you know I'm counting down the days until Arthur is back, because Arthur gets actually upset when guys overlook him and pass, like, to someone else rather than him, because he always wants the ball at his feet, to cycle it and start up offensive transition. And Bentancur is hiding away from that responsibility.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I feel like part of it is also a confidence issue because if we're gonna look at Bentancur, you have to think back. So this is what his fourth season now with Juve, and I think his best season was probably 18-19, and it looked like he had a real shot to become a really good midfielder. But I think since that season he just continues going down in form, and I think this season especially, it's like a confidence thing where every time he goes near the ball, it's as if he's afraid. He's always making the wrong choices. He's always lunging in for dangerous tackles. It's like between him and Rabiot, who's going to get more cards this season? Who's going to get more fouls? I'm actually surprised that Ramsey was the one who got a card today, and not Bentancur. Um, and like you said, Artur, it's his injury is obviously a big blow to the midfield, and it feels like right now there's just so many injuries. So it's really forcing Pirlo to play players who aren't playing well. Uh, Personally, I like to see maybe more of Fagioli. He came in, he played well, but he plays more of an attacking option, so he could kind of be like the backup to Ramsey instead. To play as that deep lying midfielder, the options are limited unless you ask McKennie to go back, and you don't want to do that because
No.
he's been playing so well up front. Even today between McKennie and Ramsey, they were contributing offensively, and Bentancur wasn't. I saw there were times in the first half where they'd get guys up front. Delit would join in, and Bentancur was still nowhere to be seen. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just it's frustrating to watch because you know I, I like to think he has the talent to become at least a good midfielder. I don't even think he's a good right now. We know that he plays well with the national team, and I don't know. There's maybe something not working out. Maybe he needs like some sort of mental break. I know you can't really do that right now because of the injuries. Uh, but I'd like to see it like you know, just something gets going for him one day.
We've been saying that, I feel like, a lot. I feel like the only time we weren't really saying that was last season, prior to the break, because of COVID. I guess I would say that was his best ever spell at Juve, under Sadi, pre-COVID break. But ever since that, like, and anything before that as well, pretty much non-existent. Waiting for this guy to um, show something, show that you're great at one thing at least. I don't feel like he's great at anything, and for the most part he's not even good at anything. Like, okay, I can rely on this guy to do this game. I don't get that with him. And we can see, the other midfielders on our team, sure, they're also not great at, you know, many things, but they do have one thing or another that you can rely on them. I can rely on McKennie to dispossess the opposition and provide cover, in defensive transition, which Juve lacks in. I can rely on him for that. And, he's been giving us a little bit going forward as well. Ramsey, you're always going to get at least something going creatively. And you can rely on him in that sense. I'm not going to put Ramsey out there and expect him to have 5 interceptions and 3 recoveries, because he's not that player. But I know that from him, and I look at Arthur, and we know what we get from him as well. It takes one glance to say, this guy, the ball is not never going to leave this guy's foot. If anyone comes near him, the ball is secure, and he's improving as well in going forward, and, being more positive in that sense, as opposed to, sideways or horizontal. But then you look at Bentancur, and, much like Rabiot, but Bentancur even more so, you look at him and you're like, so what is he going to give us? And I don't know, do you think, is there something that you can think when but you hear Bentancur's name on the game sheet and was like, yeah, we're gonna get this from him today.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? At least with Rabiot, I find like when he's on his game, he can actually provide something. Like the guy runs like a machine. He could, he makes those good runs every so often. Offensively, you just think back to his goal against Milan in the summer. That's Rabiot at the top of his game. Unfortunately, we don't always get the top of his game. I think he's one of those players. Another one, maybe it's all in his head or something. I know there's a whole thing with it, kind of with his mom, who's also his agent, this and that. I'm not gonna get into details there, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just one of
I
those
catch what
players
you're
that
what you're given.
they have there's something, and
Yeah,
it's frustrating because he's another talented one, and I think he's more talented than Bentancur.
I agree with that.
And
Yeah,
him especially, if he gets his head on right, I think he could be like I'm not going to say elite midfielder, but great, excellent, where he could maybe play a regular role and not get suspended. You know, like today he was suspended, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, yeah, that's right. Second yellow against Napoli. We're missing Danilo against Verona. I think that's going to be a big loss as well, considering, our J Medical is full right now. So I think that'll be a little bit of an issue. I don't think Quadrado is making Verona, so I'm not sure what Pirlo will do with that. But just moving on with the post match, and we'll also get into Fagioli, because you mentioned him as well, and Twitter wanted us to speak about him as well a little bit. And I mean, I'll just say this: if Bentancur is putting out crap like that, I was at when people were saying, start Fagioli, but mind you, people were saying start Fagioli over Ramsey, and no way I would do that, and I was pretty firm on that stance. If Ramsey's fit, like, you got to play Ramsey. But I mean, if Bentancur's dropping these performances that are just terrible, like not one good thing at all, then I mean, I can see their case. So I'll just say that about that. Um, Pirlo also spoke about, Morata not being at his best. And when he spoke about Kulusevski, he kind of compared, or he made the comparison, this isn't Parma, so he's improving, but he's not used to kind of everyone staying back, because you play for Juventus now, so teams are gonna, try to do anything they can to keep you out, because of the nature of the team. Um, we'll also talk about Kulusevski, and I have a bunch of opinions on Kulusevski. Kind of mentioned it pre-pod as well, like pre-Crotone, because he was predicted to start and he ended up starting. We can go through him as well when we touch on the player grades. just quickly, Buffon and Ramsey kind of mimicked the same thing, saying like it wasn't really easy, but we got the job done. Created a lot of chances, held on for 90 minutes, um, and scored 3 goals. So job done. Speaking of Ramsey, you know, for me, he was my man of the match. If we want to start getting into the player ratings, I know Ronaldo scored 2 goals, and you know,
Cristiano is back. This is the most important.
um, there was a huge goal drought with between him, Morata, and Kulusevski, over 300 minutes per like between them, or each rather, and it was good. We needed to break that duck. Our attack was suffering, and um, it was good that he got on the score sheet, and he could have realistically scored 5, but none of this, in my opinion, happens without this inclusion of Ramsey. Chiesa, big shout as well. Uh, Top 3 guys for sure, in my opinion: Ramsey, Chiesa, and Ronaldo. But if Chiesa is taken out of this lineup, and let's say Rabiot is stuck in there instead, I don't think we get the same performance. And I actually think Kulusevski's, inability to offer much in that role is highlighted with the exclusion of Ramsey in this match. Um, what are your thoughts on that?
About Kulusevski.
Just about, like, I guess Ramsey's influence, and it's just my personal take that if you throw Rabiot in there instead of Ramsey today, Kulusevski's performance is highlighted, and his inability to really do much or create much or offer much in this striker role.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you. Personally, like with Ramsey, like I'm not the biggest fan of his, just because I find there's times when you are attacking, he kind of seems to almost like he's like tripping over himself at times. He just I don't know. There's just something about watching Ramsey play that just doesn't convince me just yet. Uh, like I find he's a better passer than a shooter. So maybe I pay attention too much when he shoots, and he kind of looks very off balance. He doesn't hit the target a lot. But today with his passing, I found he did obviously a good job. Right, he had the assist. Um, but between him and Kulusevski, to create chances, I found they like together, both of them on at the same time. It worked out pretty well. I don't think you could just have Ramsey or you could just have Kulusevski. They're not Dybala when he's at his when he's at his best, right? So I think maybe looking forward, you kind of look to have two creative attacking midfielders like that. Kulusevski, again, he's another guy. I still can't formulate an opinion on him. Uh, he's another one that looks very unbalanced when he runs. He looks very funny. He tries to. It's as if he's still at Parma. He tries to do things all by himself sometimes. And then he's got players like Ronaldo, there, Morata, Chiesa. So I think just the way, yeah, like I said before, I think just the way they played as a unit today worked out well. Um, and maybe Pirlo could try that again moving forward in the next couple of games.
To me, Kulusevski and Ramsey are very, very similar. And I think that Kulusevski should be playing, behind an attack, whether it's, 2 or 3 or one guy, and then he's in like a 3-prong attack behind the one striker. I don't know what the best, fit for him is yet, but I do know that he's not a winger and he's not a striker. So I don't know what that really leaves for him to be, because he's not a central midfielder and he's obviously not a defender or anything else in between, or wing back, anything like that. So to me, the only real fit for him, for me, is, an attacking midfielder. And he does look good when he's running. He has the ball at his foot and he's running with it, in open space more centrally. Other than that, really, he can't play with his back to goal. Like, absolutely not. He doesn't even have a great touch for that. He's not, like, he doesn't look, to feel the guy behind him, the center back, like, like a pure striker. He's absolutely not that. And like you said, when he's running or, with his touch on the sideline, he just looks funny and just, not balanced and kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but definitely not a winger for me. And I feel like going forward, I don't really understand the purchase any way we look at it. I understand that he's young, but I still don't understand the purchase in general. Um, Especially when you have guys like Ramsey, and you go by Chiesa after already buying Kulusevski, and then you have Dybala, who likes to drop deep anyway, where a guy like Kulusevski would probably be. So that's really, I felt that way about Kulusevski from the beginning of the season. I heard crazy things on Twitter the first after the Sampdoria game, and I was like, whoa, relax, because everyone needs to chill out. And that's why I was kind of skeptical of everyone jumping on the Fagioli train so early. Just let the guy play, and he's your favorite, sure, but is he a starter? No. So let's just chill. And your favorite is not going to play all the time because he's probably not a starter. So yeah, that's my take on that. Um, but just going back to Ramsey, he had his assist. Um, he also could have had a few more assists. He tried setting up Ronaldo a few times. He hit the crossbar on a header himself, and then in the 75th minute, we could have gone 4-0 up. Chiesa kind of put a through ball into Ronaldo. He kind of fluffed his lines. It ended up on Ramsey's foot. Big save, and then went out for a corner kick. But his other stats were pretty good as well. He just, to me, had a well-rounded performance, which is why I would give him the man of the match. Like I said, it's hard considering Ronaldo got 2 goals, but he had 2 shots on target. Just to put in some more context, 5 key passes, 92% pass accuracy, 1 accurate cross. Obviously, that led to the goal. 3 accurate long balls, the assist, 2 defensive interceptions, 1 tackle, and 1 clearance. So, I mean, he was kind of doing it on both ends. And, I felt like he had to, because, he was basically in a midfield of him and McKennie. And you saw him drop deep. You saw him in and around the box. So, yeah, my man of the match for sure. We can talk about Chiesa as well. Chiesa had 1 shot on target, 4 key passes, 83% pass accuracy, 3 accurate crosses, 3 accurate long balls, and 4 successful dribbles. And of course, Chiesa's that spark. And when we say 4 successful dribbles, like, you just need a set of eyes, and that this guy wants to take on everyone. And he's our most inventive player for sure. I've said this multiple times. He was also, could have been on the end of a few assists himself to Ronaldo. And, right off the bat, our first, big opportunity was Chiesa going down the right. And, it took a little bobble and threw, I guess, Ronaldo off, but pretty much an open net, and you expect him to score regardless. He's just, been, I guess, the main rejuvenation in this team. What are your thoughts on Chiesa?
You know what? Like, Chiesa, I wasn't a fan of the signing originally. I'll be the first person to admit that. I said it multiple times on my podcast. I wasn't convinced of him just yet. Maybe that's because he was at Fiorentina, where it's not like the talent of Juve, right? This is a mid-table team. A team that it was 2 seasons ago they just escaped relegation, and I found with Chiesa, he would always do a good job of getting into the box, but he would never finish. And that was my thoughts of
Yes.
Chiesa with Fiorentina.
Yeah.
Watching him now and seeing what he does, I see why I thought of that, because you're playing with Fiorentina, you're not playing with the good players. Okay, what did Ribery played what part of last year? He was hurt. The talent just isn't there. So he was trying to do it all himself. He's a young player. He just couldn't do it all himself. He comes to Juve. He has this supporting cast around him, and suddenly I love him. I'll be the first person to eat my words, and
Mhm.
that's what I said every time I talk to someone about that. I said, you know what, if Chiesa does well, I'll be more than happy that I'm wrong, because
Yeah.
it's benefiting my team.
Of course. Yeah.
So
You're talking to Daniele too much.
yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, and I know he's a huge Chiesa fan, and he likes to bug me about that too. But you know what? I'm happy. I'm so happy about Chiesa. Not only as a Juve fan too, just as an Italian. Hopefully, he could translate this success with the national team as well.
Yes.
I just love the way, how much how hard he works on and off the ball. He tracks back. I find playing him as a wing back has been a great choice. That's another thing too. I wasn't too sure because with Fiorentina he played more he played more up. So to give him more defensive responsibilities was I was a bit worried at first. And he's fantastic. He gives it his all every game. He, like you said, he's very creative. Um, you know, it, right now I don't have much to complain about. A lot of people are comparing him to maybe Bernadeschi when he first arrived. I hope it doesn't turn out that way. I really don't think it will.
Well, I mean, he's already
He's already better.
yeah, he's already surpassed anything that Bernardeschi has done at Juventus, in my opinion. And Ronaldo, of course. What are your thoughts on him today? For me personally, um, he he got the 2 goals. Didn't have the greatest games though. If you really look at his performance, his passing wasn't great today. And him and Kulusevski both had a passing accuracy. Ronaldo had like 77%, Kulusevski had 78%, and it shows. And I think that shows how weak that front two is and how they do not mesh together at all, and how it just doesn't work for either of them. Um, and I know Kulusevski's filling in a hole right now because of our injuries. I don't think that Pirlo really wants to put him there. But yeah, to me, Ronaldo didn't have the greatest of games, and should have finished a few more of those chances that I mean, near the end of the game, he got fed the ball through. He was kind of one-on-one, and the goalie made a save. And then there was right before the half to go on a hat trick. He completely missed an open net. So I mean, he took 11 shots today, and I think 4 were on target. And I think he was, we see Ronaldo fanboys all the time. This team sucks. Ronaldo has to play with these bums. Blah blah blah. Give him the ball. Selfish. This and that. And I felt like Ronaldo was fed all game long. All game long. Like I don't even think he had to create a chance for himself this time around. And Ramsey and Chiesa were so important in that sense. And he was actually being fed the ball like nonstop, like what we're used to at Real Madrid. Being around all of those skilled players that can create things out of nothing, and you're like, yeah, Ronaldo's gonna get on the end of that. So I felt like he had all that good service today, and I felt like he could have done better.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. He could have finished better. For me, I'm still gonna put him as a man of the match. Maybe it's an easy one just because he had the 2 goals, but I think he looked more energized than he did against Porto. I think a reason for that is he was playing more in the middle. I found these past few games he's been playing too much out wide, almost like it was 10 years ago. Um, and obviously the beginning of his Real Madrid days where he was a left winger, and now he's more of a striker, right? And I think that's where he belongs. against Porto, he stayed too much on the wing, and today he was more centralized, and like you said, he had the help from Chiesa and Ramsey. And I think after his 2 goals, he really wanted a third. I think more in the
Oh
second
yes.
half, he tried to create more goals himself.
Mhm.
He did a decent job of it. Obviously, didn't finish the job right, but he really wanted that hat trick. I mean, it is Crotone, not the defense really isn't that good.
Yeah,
It sucks watching that.
they've given up 52 goals before our game.
Jesus.
So I mean, on 12 points. But we can't forget that we gave them 2 points.
I know.
So
Don't want to remind us.
yeah, so I mean, we had to get the job done, and I felt like you sensed like some nervousness, and like Pirlo said, we were really focused on trying to score in the beginning, or trying to get something going, and you can sense that like we were a bit desperate, and I'm all for that. It needed to be this way. You needed to, feel that urgency and nervousness, because we can't be dropping points to teams like this. That hurts you more than dropping points to Inter. Like, I mean, that might be a stretch, but
Yeah.
you go and beat Inter, for example, and then if you lose points to Benevento the next game, it means nothing after that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I mentioned this on the pre podcast, that we beat Inter both times last season, and we still near the end, got caught a few times and finished 1 point ahead of them. So every game, you don't get 4 points for beating Inter and 2 points for beating Crotone. Every game is worth 3 points. So they all matter in the end. Um, but I wanted to go back on your point of Ronaldo, because when I was looking at some stats and things like that prior to recording this pod, I looked at the heat maps of all the players. I just really wanted to see how shit Bentancur was, but I looked at Ronaldo's, and his heat map was all in the center, in and around the box. So it's good that you kind of pointed that out, because you did see that, and maybe he needs to play him more like that. Who knows? But when Morata's in the game, obviously, Morata takes up that role more, but they can interchange, and that's what makes them that's what makes them work together, and that's what made Mandzukic and Ronaldo work so well together, because you have another guy who can take away a defender and drag them, and like it creates space, and then you always ask yourself, like, how the hell did they leave Ronaldo open? Like,
Yeah.
don't they know it's Ronaldo? But he's always had a guy. Like, Dybala's not gonna do that. Dybala will maybe drag the defender outside the box, but then a midfielder will probably pick him up, right? So having Morata, and you can see that when Morata came on, he was already trying to make runs down the left, like down the left side, and Ronaldo can hang out in the box or wherever else, right? And they can interchange in that sense. So it's a good point you made, that he was in the middle, but I mean, if we didn't have guys around him like Ramsey taking up that left wing majority of the game as his favorite side, maybe in any other opposition, in that case, he would never see the ball, right? So I feel like his good game was down to not just him this time creating something and being like the best player in the world. It was more, finally, the guys around him, like Ramsey and Chiesa. McKennie pitched in a little bit, and he's the highest scoring American now in Serie A,
With 4 goals.
4 goals. uh, Formerly being Michael Bradley, with
TFC
3 goals.
legend.
TFC legend. what what are your takeaways from this game? Like, what can you say? Yes, I want to see this. Against Verona. Let's keep this up. But and then what do you say? If we do this against Verona, we're gonna lose points.
I'd like to see Ronaldo continue playing central. Because I said I think that's where he works best. Verona's a tough team. They're so stubborn and they play so well against the top teams. It's funny because they play so well against top teams, and then they go play these bottom teams and they crumble under pressure. I don't know what it is. It's something
Yeah,
in their
and
head.
screw up my fantasy.
Yeah. It's they're such a strange team to watch. I like watching them because they're well coached, they're disciplined, they work
Mhm.
as a team. We
Yeah.
saw that in the first game against Juve. What they're gonna need to do, I think, is I think they're gonna need to score early, but not like today. Was it Pirlo who said it? They try too hard to score early. I saw that too.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
I think they came out a bit too strong. They almost like they're putting pressure on themselves. But they need to score, maybe around the 30th minute, 40th minute. They can't let it drag on into, still 0-0 into the second half, because then I think at that point maybe Verona could have a quick counterattack. And I think with Juve too is they they're the games where they dominate possession, like against Napoli, like against Porto, is the least successful. Obviously today they dominated possession, but I mean it's Crotone, right?
Yeah.
But teams that could actually play well defensively and could counterattack well, they're gonna hurt Juve. So Verona is one of those teams. So maybe there should be periods in the game where Juve just says, okay, you know what, Verona, here, you take the ball, pass it around the midfield. We'll make sure you don't get anything in our area, and then we'll make sure Chiesa comes back the other way and counterattacks. And you know what? I think it was right before the Roma game. I think you tweeted that Juve should do that. And you know what? I noticed they did. They did do that against Roma. They counterattacked, and that was a 2-0 game, right? They
Yes.
played
Yeah.
well. And they played
Yeah.
well.
I
They
mean, Roma's play is built on their counterattack. And you just saw against, Benevento, and, their resilience paid off. I mean, it went 0-0, but, they were resilient at the back, kept them out, let them have the ball. And, they couldn't get hurt on the counter. And, I absolutely obviously agree with that. And I did tweet out before the Roma game, like, I hope we have this approach because they'll kill us on the counter. And we've been awful in transition defensively, because Pirlo likes to play that high line, with the center backs getting really involved in the play. And as long as we have the ball and do that, if we have Bentancur on the field, the ball's going to be taken away and they're going to hit us on the counter. I mean, it's not just Bentancur, but um, we saw not we saw glimpses of that today, but obviously they're Crotone, right? So there wasn't really anything worrying, but you did see glimpses of that. And when, Bentancur didn't make himself available and they kind of pressed us a bit, we were kind of, just we couldn't really, like, the Ligt had to hold the ball way longer than he should have, and things like that, right? So obviously, if it's a better team, they can make us pay. And I think it was Reka had a few, caught Danilo a little bit a few times. Um, but obviously, his quality showed that he's a Crotone player, and that at the end of the day, that you know we should be expecting, to dominate a team like this and, finish our chances and things like that, right? No disrespect to them, but yeah, 100%. And Verona is kind of that perfect team that they're just gonna sit back and wait because they're good at it. It's not, and some people say, that approach is cowardly, but if you're good at it and it works, I don't understand that argument. I'm with you on, considering we were able to obviously dominate, control the possession in this game because of the opposition. I'm with you in saying that I rather not see that against Verona. Um, and I hope that, we can use that counter-attacking approach in this time around, especially, with all the games coming at us so fast. And it just worries me, a team on the counter against our back line. No
yeah.
Danilo as well. So, that that causes an issue there. So yeah, so I'm with you on that. In terms of, what we want to see going forward to the next match, what we can take from this match and what we don't want to see. Uh, if only we could not see Bentancur again. Let's talk about what I guess Twitter wants us to talk about for a few more minutes. One question we got was, what can Dybala realistically contribute between now and the off season? And follow up being, should we wait to extend his contract after we know the extent of his knee injury?
I'm excited for when he comes back. I think he's going to be finally at full fitness, and I'm excited to see what he could bring. And I think with Juve, I think they really would have needed him against Porto, because that was one of those games where they maintained possession the whole time. They weren't counting attacking at all, and they had possession, but they were not creative at all. And I think that was one of those games where he could have benefited from that, or they could have benefited from having him play. Same thing with Napoli. He's one of those players. He could change the game on a dime when he wants to. It sucks that he's been very inconsistent, pretty much since he joined Juve in 2015. And I want to see him play well. I want to see him do the best he can to be like a bandiera for the team. This whole contract thing, personally, I don't pay too much attention to it, because it's not like there's a salary cap or anything. It's not like hockey where a player's salary directly affects uh the rest, the money you could spend on other players. Obviously, I know Juve has an internal budget and stuff, but for me, I don't pay too much attention. I know 15 million is a lot. That's
I mean, it's a lot when you're paying one guy already 30, right? So
I was just thinking
like
that.
there's an indirect salary cap.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like we can't really afford Pogba, for example,
Yeah,
with a salary of Ronaldo, and if you throw Dybala high up there as well, right? So, but yeah, go on.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's not like, yeah, there's no league salary cap, but obviously there's the budget from the team. But personally, I don't pay too much attention to players' salaries. Ask me how much Bentancur is making. I don't even know. Rabiot, is nearly 10 million, right?
He's making too much. That's all we know. I think he's making like 8 mil, and
Okay.
him and Ramsey are like up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with Dybala, to wait after the season about the knee injury, that's actually a pretty good point. I think that'd be the smart thing to do, honestly, on Juve's part. I think they would use that in contract negotiations. Just say, hey man, you're kind of broken. You're 20. He's what, 27, 28 now. You're not getting any younger. If your body isn't gonna hold up for these next few years, why are we gonna pay you all that money? Maybe it could kind of lower the salary, but then if he comes back and has this amazing end to the season, he's going to ask maybe 20 million. So we'll see. I really don't want him to leave the club. I like I said, I've always enjoyed watching the player since he started. I want to see him stay. I personally say, if he's healthy, pay him what he wants. But I understand why there's people saying, also just don't, sign him to that much, because you could use that money elsewhere.
For me, I'm right with you on being, a big Dybala fan. Since he's joined, I got him every single season on the back of a jersey, because I really felt, a connection to him. Obviously not as strong, nowhere near as strong as Del Piero, but you always hoped it would be, something like that. And you saw, I guess, even his connection with Del Piero over social media and things like that. So you really felt, this guy, maybe he really loves Juve and wants to stay, his entire career with us. So you felt that, I guess, emotional connection. I personally did. But I mean, even regardless of, even regardless of this year, I mean, you take this year out, do you even still think he's worth 15 million? I mean, even that could be debated, right? Um, because, you know, you compare him to, I guess, Tevez, and, you know, who's been the better player, right? Like for me, it would be, you know, Tevez, but by miles. He was consistently at the top when he was with Juve. Not just, you know, glimpses or, you know, a game here and a game there that were memorable. For the most part, you know, that was a great buy. So I think it's probably time to move on. Unfortunately, like we mentioned, his age. This is supposed to be his peak of his career, so I understand why he wants to get as much money as he can. Because it's probably, you know, we look at basketball, and you know, guys want to get as much as they can in their peak because it's probably their last big contract. And
Yeah.
you know, you can say the same in pretty much any sport. Um, when someone's at the peak, and then all of these issues on top of that, and who knows how serious his knee injury is, right? So I know from his perspective he wants to get as much money as he can, but you know, from the Juve perspective, we, you know, have done those type of commitments too many times and end up being stuck with a big contract, that no player is going to be like, yeah, I want to leave, because they're making all this money, and they know that another any other team is not going to match that contract, so why would I leave? And you saw that with Kadira,
Yeah.
uh, Higuain, you know, Matuidi. You know, we had to just wait for uh like these guys to leave for nothing, just to get them off the books.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You,
so
you know what I like, what I like to see in Dybala's contract, a performance bonus driven contract. You know, give him a base salary of maybe like, you know, 5 million, and say, hey, if you want to get to 15 million, you know, get this many goals, this many assists, win us the Champions League, you know, do all these things, and then you'll see him, you know, come out. Maybe every contract should be like that. Every
the thing
contract.
is, like, if I'm Dybala and I see Rabiot and Ramsey making 8 million, and you're throwing five at me, I'm gonna be like, what the hell? Like, come on. Like, am I really worth less than those guys? And you know, he has a point in that sense, right? I
Yeah.
think he should be making more than Rabiot, and you know, Ramsey playing a fraction of the games in a Juve uniform, right?
Yeah.
So
And the problem is that these contracts were signed, you know, pre-pandemic, right? You know, there were still fans in the seats. You know, there was still money coming in, and that's the problem now. It's, you got two different, um, you know, approaches to signing players and contracts and all that. Now you don't have that money coming in, so you know you can't afford those big contracts. You know, maybe if, you know, this was before a pandemic, or just the pandemic never happened, there's, if the and there would still be fans in the seats, you know, maybe Juve wouldn't be as reluctant to give out 15 million on Dybala,
yeah,
because
for
obviously
sure.
he is worth more than Rabiot.
Hmm.
But it's tough to come up with that money at this point.
Yeah, 100%. The pandemic, you know, no one could have predicted that, and that plays a huge role in anything that, you know, bar Man City and PSG, any other team is gonna do in this offseason, especially. Um, so 100%, I'm with you there, and you know, that could be partly the reason why there's the reluctancy, along with his, you know, his season and how he's been performing. But speaking of finances, um, I mean, you think Juve, you think plus a Valenza. So I want to know your thoughts on whether Fagioli is, you know, has a real shot at this first team, or if he's just another gimmick. You know, give him some minutes and sell him for 11 mil like Portanova.
That's another tough one, because I feel like with these players that they get rid of, like they're so unpredictable with who they actually, you know, get rid of. Obviously, you want to see Juve develop players, and you know, with the U23 team that they've, you know, created, you know, these players have a better chance of making the first team. But it feels like it's just been, you know, so long since there's been that player. You know what, Marquisio. is he the I don't know the numbers. Is he the last Juve youth product to play such a long career for the team? So you want to have one of those players. I know Fabrota has been playing more than other players, but he's not a regular. I don't think he's meant to be a regular. He just
No.
played at the beginning of the season before Chiesa got there, and while Alexandro was still hurt. So maybe Fagioli could be that player. I'm not saying he's the next Marquisio. Don't take it that way. Just at least be that player that represents the Juve youth. Because if you're a kid growing up from the through the Juve youth system, you look at the first team. There's no players that went through your path. There's hardly any Italians, which is another thing. I wish Juve had more Italians. Obviously it's nice to see Chiesa there and stuff, but I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they have to sign Italians either.
Yeah.
You go out and sign the best player. It's just sometimes it'd be nice to see, right, that some of the depth players have come from Torino, let's say.
And it wouldn't shock me if we sell him and make a profit off of him. We're yet to see if he's good enough. He played against Spal in the Coppa Italia, and then 30 minutes here in a game that was done and dusted at 3-0. So I'm never I try to be as objective as possible, and like I said, people have their favorites and fight to the death for their favorites. Maybe I guess you could say the same about me and Allegri, but I try to slow the roll and give the guy his minutes, and we'll see what happens from that. But like I said, it wouldn't shock me, especially in these financial circumstances, that they can sell him and get some money off of him. I want to hear a one-liner hot take from you in about Juventus in regards to anything, from management to staff to personnel, Serie A, Champions League. The floor is yours, and we want you to get all the heat for this hot take.
Demiral isn't that good. He's not that good, and I think you've even tweeted out the same opinion a few times. And I think the first time I saw that you tweeted, I'm like, okay, I disagree with that. But then I started paying attention, maybe that was earlier in the season. I started paying attention, and I really don't like him. He just goes for tackles just to tackle. He's not intelligent, on the pitch. Maybe he's a smart person overall, but he doesn't make smart plays. He's all over the place. He gets a lot of cards, gets a lot of fouls. I don't think, he's a future of Juventus defense. I think, I'm not going to say, Ethan Rugani's better than him, but, it gets to a point, if he starts taking so many cards and fouls and costing the team, that point, just bring back Rugani, let's say. He is young. I'll give him that. And he, I have noticed there are times where he does learn from his mistakes, but a lot of people are, saying, oh, him and De Ligt are the next, Bonucci and Chiellini. And I don't think that's the case. De Ligt, in my opinion, he's probably the next captain of Juventus, if not the next, a future captain of Juventus. I think he could become a world-class defender. But he's not going to be playing alongside Mary Demiral. Who's he going to be playing alongside? That I have no clue. Maybe Dragusin's gonna, improve. He's another young defender. So Demiral, I'm not sold on him. I don't like him. I hope he proves me wrong. But until he does, he's just gonna keep yelling all the time just to yell, just to show grinta, which is good to see. But you also got to be a smart player.
Yeah, like people making the comparison to Montero and things like that.
Yeah.
Just because of his grit, but it comes to a point where, well, first of all, the game has changed. You can't crunch a guy anymore and get away with it. That's number one. I mean, there's VAR everywhere, so the comparisons don't even really make sense. grit doesn't mean, you're gonna cost, like you said, the match, throwing the match away, and costing your team. And nowadays, everything, that Chiellini penalty against Ramani against Napoli, that would never be called without VAR, right? So I'm with you there. I give him the benefit of the doubt because there are instances where he comes in big, blocks a big opportunity, and shows his strength. He's good in the air, and he wins those battles in the air a lot, which Bonucci doesn't really do. But Bonucci's another story. But
He's a better passer.
yeah, for sure, he's the best passer on the defensive line. So that's him. You know what you get from him. But I'm with you. I'm right with you there in saying Demiral is a little bit too overhyped, and I'm not saying that he's terrible, or I wouldn't go as far as saying Rugani's better. I mean, you get two sides of the spectrum there, where Rugani doesn't even attempt to take a yellow card, and then Demiral goes all out. But with every post match, I think I just missed one. Try to throw in a trivia question. Basically, I'm gonna formulate, out of all the videos, formulate little clips of them so that people can try to guess with the given clue. So this one will go guess the goal. You don't have to answer as well. You can respond on Twitter when I post out the video. So guess the goal. So I expect the goal scorer, who we played, and what year it was. So the clue for this one is Alexandro helped me defy the odds of gravity on this goal at the cusp of halftime for Juve to eventually win the match 2-1. So again, guess the goal, naming the goal scorer, opponent, and year. The clue is Alexandro helped me defy the odds of gravity on this goal at the cusp of halftime for Juventus to eventually win the match 2-1. So
I know which goal that is.
It was a pretty unforgettable goal, I think. But we don't want to hear your guess here. You could respond later on.
I'll tell you. I was in Italy when that goal was scored. I was watching with my friend. I was with my friend Adriano. We were at his mom's cousin's house. We were having dinner, and let's just say we enjoyed watching that goal.
Yeah, of course.
We enjoyed watching it.
That was an unforgettable one. I guess I don't want to say too much, but an unforgettable player as well. So that kind of concludes where we're at here on episode 7 of reJUVEnation. I want to say thank you again to Nicholas. Thank you for joining me. We kind of went a little late this time around, but it was great to have you, and the conversation was great. Hope to have you again, in the coming weeks with all these games going on. Thank you again, and I just want to say Forza Juve, and we'll fight till the end. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it. With my podcast, the Calcio Guys. I'm with a Milan fan and a Roma/Napoli fan, so I don't get to talk about Juve as much as I do today. So it's always nice to talk with fellow Juventini about the team, and thanks for having me, and I definitely enjoyed it.
And go Leafs, go.
That I won't say. Forza Juve, that I'll say.